So the 2024 Heisman winner was just announced, and it was announced that Travis Hunter won. And I'm not going to downplay, I'm not going to discredit anything he's done, because what he's done is very, very impressive. But I'm going to say this for me and for a lot of other people out there. I believe Ashton Jeanty was robbed. Again, don't get me wrong, what Travis Hunter did this season was absolutely phenomenal, but I truly do believe what Ashton Jeanty did all across the board. I know he didn't play defense, but what he did was more outstanding in my opinion. And like I said, he got robbed. And that's the topic of today's video. I'm going to be going over Ashton Jeanty and two other guys who I believe were robbed of winning at Heisman. And without further ado, let's get into this. Since we're on the topic, we're just going to go ahead and talk about Ashton Jeanty. This season, Ashton Jeanty had a 344 rushing attempts, 2,497 yards, and 29 touchdowns, and he was averaging almost a first down. Okay, that might be a stretch, but he was averaging 7.5 yards per attempt. And I know other running backs in the past had better numbers than he did and didn't win the Heisman, so I mean that's a fair case. But what Ashton Jeanty did, you saw it in person, you saw him play it out. It's unbelievable what he did this year. And I would understand a little more if he didn't deserve to be the Heisman, if Boise State had 2 losses, 3 losses, anything under 1 loss, I'd understand. But Ashton Jeanty, in my opinion, I mean, the whole entire Boise State team is good, but they are not 12-1, and they are not number 3 in the college football playoff right now if they didn't have Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty is pretty much the single-handedly reason why Boise State is as good as they are this season. And again, like I've said earlier, I really don't want to downplay or discredit what Travis Hunter has done this season. I feel like I really have to say this because the people are going to come at me for being a hater or whatever, and like I said, I'm going to say it over and over again in this video. Travis Hunter had a phenomenal season, but Ashton Jeanty, when you think of the 2024 college football season, you're going to think of Ashton Jeanty more so than Travis Hunter. Ashton Jeanty had a crazier, bigger impact on the sport this season than Travis Hunter has, and going into games, they had an entire game plan to stop Ashton Jeanty single-handedly. I don't really think that's the case with Travis Hunter. Obviously, they didn't leave Travis Hunter out of the game plan altogether, but I don't think Travis Hunter was the main single-handedly aspect of the game plan. I'm going to have to say this a lot, like I said, because people are going to be attacking me for this, but what Travis Hunter did on both sides of the ball was absolutely phenomenal this season. And I don't want to take away from that, but if you look at these stats, it's just kind of like mediocre, not mediocre, but it's just not as impressive as what people make it out to be. He's not at the top of a lot of these stats, and I don't want to take away from what he did at the receiver position this year. Should he have won the Biletnikoff? I don't think so, but he was very, very impressive at the receiver position, and I don't want to take away from that. But if you look at Ashton Jeanty all around, just one of the most dominant seasons at a single position I've ever seen, and I don't know if I've ever seen that before or if that's ever happened to another running back in the history of college football. Maybe back in like the Scrooge McDuck days of college football, but I don't really know. I don't think I've ever seen that before. If you think Travis Hunter deserved to win the Heisman, fine, it's all great, but I think most people in the college football landscape thinks that Jeanty did deserve the Heisman this year. The next player we're going to be looking at is Christian McCaffrey of Stanford in 2015. CMC in 2015 at Stanford was absolutely electrifying, and what set him apart from other great running back seasons of the past was that he could do it in the air as well, not passing obviously, but receiving, as in total he had 2019 rushing yards and only 8 touchdowns. That really does hurt in his Heisman case, but when it came to receiving, he had 645 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns, and helped lead Stanford to an 11-2 record, and they destroyed Iowa in the Rose Bowl. Now, the guy who did win the Heisman in 2015 was Alabama running back Derrick Henry, and it's funny that this debate between who is better, Derrick Henry and CMC, was going back all the way to college. But anyway, if you look at his stats, he made a very compelling case to win the Heisman. You could easily make the case that he deserved to win it, which, hey, I'm not going to argue on that. I think he deserved it. 2,219 rushing yards, 28 rushing touchdowns, which is 20 more than Christian McCaffrey. But the receiving stats obviously is where his flaw is, that Christian McCaffrey, obviously has the receiving stats, while Derrick Henry doesn't. It also helps Derrick Henry that Alabama finished 12-1 and finished number 2, which meant they were making the college football playoff. And not only that, but Alabama would go on to win the national championship. Now, obviously, the playoff games take place after the Heisman voting, so that doesn't really matter. But Alabama was better that year. Stanford was pretty good as well. They finished 11-2 and made the Rose Bowl game. But again, Bama was just the better team, and that helped Derrick Henry's case. One last thing, here are Derrick Henry's and Christian McCaffrey's stats compared, and obviously CMC has him in the receiving category by far, while Derrick Henry has him in the rushing category. You can easily make the case that both these guys were deserving of the Heisman. You can very easily say Christian McCaffrey was robbed. I wouldn't say it's highway robbery. Again, both these guys deserved it. But hey, let me know who you think should have won the 2015 Heisman. And the third and last guy we're going to be talking about is running back from Arkansas from 2005 to 2007, Darren McFadden. While McFadden's stats might not be as eye-popping as some of the other running backs we've talked about today, he was just as dominant and could take over games just as easily as Derrick Henry, CMC, and Ashton Jeanty. As Darren McFadden in 2006 had 284 rushing attempts, 1,647 rushing yards, and 14 touchdowns. And those stats, even though it's not as great as, like I said, it's not as great as Jeanty, CMC, and Derrick Henry, he was still incredibly dominant. The guy who actually won the Heisman in 2006 was Troy Smith, the quarterback from Ohio State, and the only thing that was really a significant booster was that he led Ohio State to an undefeated record and a spot in the national championship. And his stats, they aren't that great for a quarterback. 2,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. That's a good touchdown-interception ratio, but the yards, that's not really good at all, especially for a Heisman-winning quarterback. So you think, okay, well, maybe the rushing stats, maybe he is the Lamar Jackson type of guy. No, he only rushed for 200 yards. Really, like, the only thing that's going for him is the record, as Arkansas finished 10-3 in 2006. I don't know how Darren McFadden didn't win the Heisman this year. Darren McFadden absolutely deserved it. Now, in 2007, his stats were even better. Darren McFadden was even better in 2007 than he was in an already very dominant season, but he still finished second in Heisman voting. This time he lost to Tim Tebow, and honestly, I wouldn't even say he was robbed this time. Tim Tebow, even though Florida finished 9-3, he's still very worthy of winning the Heisman, so I wouldn't even say Darren McFadden was robbed this time around. Those are all the guys I'm going to be going over in this video. I'm sure there are more cases where guys should have won the Heisman but didn't. I'm sure there are more cases where guys who were robbed of winning the Heisman, but that's all I'm going to do. And let me know who should have won, Jeanty or Hunter, and that's about it. Bye.